So I'm finally doing an A-level art sketchbook tour, and if you want to see how I made this, this and this, then do keep watching. This is my first sketchbook for A-level art, and I started off with a wonderful title page. I mean, just look at the effort that really went into that. Anyway, on to the start of my actual sketchbook. I started off with a lot of writing, and I wouldn't recommend that because examiners don't have all day to read your books, but they do like to see some annotations, so it would have been better if I had actually just kind of spread out this writing. So yeah, anyway, I did these over the summer holidays, and then when we got back to school we did some more experimentation with Indian ink, with emulsion, and then with monoprints. I'm not very skilled at monoprinting, but I think the next page really helped me think, yeah, I should be doing art, because I just love the way that these two pages turned out. I was using different materials, different mediums if you like, to recreate the photos that I had taken. In the next few pages I really consolidated my ideas, looking at light and distortion as my title. And so I started looking at glass objects because I was just really interested in the way that light interacts with objects, interacts with people, and I thought portraiture is so much more interesting when you have really interesting lighting on the subject. And so I started looking at Alyssa Monks, who paints portraits of people behind panels of glass with steam or with water droplets on top. And so I made some water droplets out of hot glue, and I took some photos as a response, and then proceeded to just experiment with different materials on top of the photographs. I did some watercolours and then some poly prints, which I thought turned out really nicely. I'm so glad that we did a lot of experimentation at the beginning, because honestly it just opens your eyes to so many different methods and materials which you could use, and I would have never have thought about using poly prints if I hadn't been introduced to it earlier. On the next few pages I did show some of my failures, because I think it's really important to show to the examiner your process and show them where you didn't succeed, so that you can then write about how you changed and then got to a successful image or response to the artist. I then did a charcoal drawing of one of my friends, and I had this poly print, this big poly print over the top of their face, and then on the next page I wrote a long piece about the method that I used and just basically how I achieved that image. And then on the next few pages I really delved into those ideas of having the steam and the water droplets in front of the face, because examiners really do look for development and a process. I mean, that is why you're doing a sketchbook, to show all your ideas and your journey, your artistic journey. And so I then looked at batik wax, and I was really pleased with how these turned out actually. I then did a watercolour portrait, which is probably the worst in my entire book. Sometimes things just don't work out, and honestly I wish that I had gone back and redone that, but sometimes you just don't want to go there. You're just like, look, that was not a good idea. Painting on top of wax, no, don't do it. It's not gonna work, it really isn't. I then quickly moved on and did a looking back page, and on the other side you can see that I'm redirecting myself to look at light again. So I then began to look at Chiaroscuro photography, and looking at dramatic portraits basically. And so I took these photographs with a small little camera, and I had that in one hand and then my phone in the other hand I just googled like blue and red and yellow, and then just clicked on the image and made my phone like completely blue, and then I just shone that on myself in the darkness. And then with another hand I took a picture of myself. It would have been easier to get someone else, but I guess I felt too awkward and cringy to do that, so I just took a selfie basically, and then I did a response, and I did 2 oil paintings, which I'll put the images here because you'll be able to see them in better detail. And I was really pleased with the blending that I got on these oil paints. I just want to say this was the first time that I did oil painting these 2 portraits, so I'm pretty pleased with how they turned out. And then I moved on to look at white light now on the face and see how it kind of distorts the features or emphasizes certain features. I then did a response with some acrylic paint and some pencils up there, as you can see. And then I started using charcoal to do portraits. I just want to really emphasize this, that if you're using a material or a medium which you've not really used before, and you start out thinking it looks kind of bad, don't give up, please. Just give it a couple of weeks. If it turns out bad, it's just a couple of weeks. But if you really try and approach it from different angles. So I started off doing this portrait of a whole face, and it was not, it doesn't look that good, does it? But I then decided to do an extreme close-up, and it turned out pretty fantastic. I'm so pleased with this, honestly. It's probably, these 3 charcoal portraits are probably the best pieces of art that I've ever produced in my lifetime. Yeah, just stick at it, and honestly, I improved massively. As you can see, this first charcoal portrait is not the best, and these next few ones, the nose proportions are, I can't even, oh my gosh, no, it's not good. But I did write some annotations there, and I did kind of explain to the examiner, I'm not pleased with how these are turning out, so I'm gonna keep going, and I'm not just gonna give up. And so I took these photos of myself really close up, weird distortions probably happening on my face or whatever, but I ended up with this and with the other 2. And I'm so pleased that I didn't just give up, and I managed to improve that much. People often ask me how long it took to draw those, and honestly, I didn't time myself, but I worked on them over a weekend each. First of all, I would cover everything in charcoal, and then I would really build in the dark areas. And then I'd take a break, probably for a good few hours, watch some YouTube, come back, and then do some of the midtones, sculpting the face out. I then would come back and put in some highlights, and that really, that just transformed the image and made it look really lifelike. And I'd keep on adding in details and just making it better and better until I thought, right, that's good, get some hairspray, do that over the image, and then it was done. So I'd say probably 5 hours was the amount of time that I spent, or maybe 6 hours if I kind of count all the times that I would just kind of sit there and just think like, I spent a ridiculous amount of time just looking at my artwork, and it's really good to do that actually, because when you look at your own artwork, and take a break and then come back and just look at it, you can then see things which you didn't necessarily see while you were in the workflow, and you can see like, oh yeah, that eye looks a bit strange, okay, I'm going to change that. I then began to look at fragmented identity. Light and distortion with fragmentation was my new idea. So me and a few friends went to the Lumiere London Light exhibition, and it was fantastic, can I just say. It gave me so many ideas, and I was so inspired to just create a sculpture of light and mirrors and things. I was just like, I really want to use mirrors and have this amazing juxtaposition of reality through the mirror and artwork through panels of charcoal portraits. And so that's exactly what I decided to do. I got some mirror card and I did some trigonometry and cut out like triangles and kind of worked out where I was going to put things, and I made all these models which you can see here. And I then thought, do you know what, I'm going to use these. So this was quite tricky. I got a phone with a torch on it, and I kind of positioned that onto one of these models, which I then positioned to light up my face, and then with another hand I took a picture with this old camera that I had, And honestly, the images I think turned out really, really cool. I love the way that they just lit up the room. It almost looks like there's some kind of projection. Anyway, then I did some pencil responses, and then I looked at different mediums just with the same image here. And I went to some more exhibitions. Always go to exhibitions, look at contemporary art as well as older art, because there's always going to be interesting things out there, you know, and there's so many amazing contemporary artists who I didn't know about before I did art A-level. And then I decided I was like, right, I'm going to make some panels, some triangular panels for this sculpture. And so I decided to do these two images. And then I decided, right, just to develop my skills, I'm going to look at another artist who does actually use charcoals and things. Anyway, but she's called Helena Bulajic, or I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry. I did a drawing of my dad as an artistic response, and I actually really liked the way that it turned out. I then did some experimentation, which I don't really like the way it turned out, but never mind. It was still, you know, interesting and fun to do. And then I continued with my panels, and I cut out lots of different images because I was thinking, should I do the panels in flesh tones? Like, should I do them as I would in real life, or should I do them how I had done those Chiaroscuro portraits from before? Should I do them like yellow and blue and red? But I was thinking, like, no, I want to do it in black and white. So I went to the Tate Modern. I looked at the Shape of Light exhibition with a friend again. Always go with a friend to exhibitions and things, because they'll always look at artworks and have different insights to you, and they'll be interested in different things from you. It's nice to be able to go with someone and talk about the art with them and just kind of generate those ideas, because when you're just on your own, you know, you've only got one brain, so you only react in a certain way, and maybe there are other ideas which are out there which you're just not exposed to because you've not thought of them. So anyway, I then did an evaluation of my sculpture and explained the whole process of construction. Yeah, and here it is. It's underneath my desk. Oh my gosh, is it okay? Okay, yeah. Woo! Okay, this is it. So this is the sculpture. I have all these portraits of friends and family. Basically, you're supposed to be able to look inside, and only you will really be able to see yourself. But other people might be able to see different reflections of you, and so I just thought that it would be a really nice commentary, basically, on how we see our own lives in full colour, but other people, we can only speculate about their experiences, because even if you're in the same family, you haven't lived their life. You know, they go to school, they go to university, and they have a whole experience which you have no idea about. And so I kind of wanted to, I guess, comment on that with my book. So that's the end of my Light and Identity Book 1.